My sister-in-law is actually mocking my little boy Charlie. She's making fun of him. We're talking about an 8-year-old kid. She said he's never going to have a girlfriend. She said that he looks goofy with the clothes that he wears. And she says all this in front of everyone, not caring who listens. Well, you know what? I'm sick of her just being the one at the top of the pedestal, and she thinks that nothing can happen to her. So I'm going to do something very drastic, and a lot of you probably won't agree with it. But you know what? I don't care. Hey guys, so I've been hearing from my family for the past few days that I did something petty. So I feel like maybe I should reach out and ask for a bit of a third-party opinion. Before getting into what happened, I should say that I really don't feel bad about it at all, but I seem to be the minority on that. So, a little bit of a background. I, 32 female, have 2 siblings, Rick and Sarah. We lost our father when we were all really young, so our mother raised us alone for most of our lives. Partly because of that, Sarah and I have always been largely independent women. Sarah never married, and I divorced my ex-husband Adam when our son Charlie was just 6. Adam and I are on good terms, and he's a very involved father, but we both agreed that the relationship just did not have much steam left. It was better for Charlie to see us separate than to be raised by 2 parents who just weren't happy with each other anymore. Rick, on the other hand, got married just last year. We were all really happy for him, but we weren't necessarily over the moon about his choice of bride. His wife, whom I'll call Jones. She's a model. I have no judgments about that, and goodness knows that she's gorgeous enough to suit the job. The problem is that she had a tendency to embody all the worst stereotypes that you might associate with models. She tends to act like she's a lot more famous than she is, and it can get really obnoxious really quickly, and she'll do a photo shoot for a local advertisement and act like she just came from a magazine shoot. If that were the only problem, it might be a lot easier to just ignore her. But she has other behaviors that are a lot more toxic. She's almost always overdressed for family events, yet she acts like everybody else is underdressed. It comes across to me and Sarah as widely narcissistic. She's even thrown shade at her mother for the worst way that she dresses. Although Mom always brushes it off and says that some young women are just like that. I don't have as much patience for it. Well, what I really don't have patience for, however, is the way that she treats my son. I know that some people just don't get along with children very well, but the way Jones treats Charlie, it feels a lot more malicious than that. She mostly comments on his looks, but she has a lot to say about his personality as well. She'll say things like, "Wow, he sure is a lot, plainer than the other men in your family. Well, not everyone can be born with charm." She once told me that it was a good thing Tinder existed because she can't picture him growing into the kind of man who knows how to talk to a woman. I don't really think my 8-year-old son's future love life is something any adult needs to be commenting on right now in the first place. Ew. And it always, creeps me out when people talk about children that way. The fact that she's being so insulting about it, it certainly doesn't help. To make matters worse, she often makes these comments in front of Charlie. In fact, she often has a knack for doing it when I'm busy with something or someone else. So I've heard a lot of this from Charlie or other witnesses without necessarily seeing much of it myself. But I tend to trust the sources I hear it from, and I do not appreciate it. Charlie's had issues with bullying at school, so he has a tendency to be a bit sensitive. It's been a really big problem trying to deal with school administrators about it. A few weeks ago, a student called him a slur. I have absolutely no idea where the student learned that kind of language at that age. Charlie didn't know what the word meant, so he just said it back. And when the kid hit him, Charlie got in trouble because he was the only one that the teacher heard use the word. I sat him down and explained what, he said and why it was wrong. But it still bothers me that the other kid barely even got a slap on the wrist. Anyways, that's kind of the thing Charlie puts up with at school, and so the last thing that I want is for him to have to put up with the same thing when he's around his own family. But for whatever reason, my sister really likes to single him out. I know that she has other nieces and nephews through her siblings, and my understanding is that she loves them to death. About 6 years ago, Sarah adopted a little girl named Stacy, and Jones is always telling her what a gorgeous young woman she's turning into. Charlie is the only one that she picks on, and I feel like he's noticed. Stacy's a kind gal and gets along well with Charlie, so at least I know that my sister-in-law is not stroking the girl's ego too much. But who knows how long that'll be true if this sort of thing continues. I've spoken to Jones about it before, but she always says I'm overreacting and that the kid, who looks like Charlie, needs to toughen up if they're going to make it in life. I've spoken privately to Rick about it, but he always takes his wife's side. Sarah agrees with me, and she's tried to talk to Rick too, but to no avail. Our mother largely stays out of it, and Adam wants our son kept away from that woman, and I'm inclined to agree with him. The result, sadly, is that Charlie doesn't have the relationship with his uncle that I'd had with him. Well, all of this led up to our annual family barbecue just a couple days ago. My mother always throws this huge barbecue and pool party for the whole extended family once a year when the weather starts getting nicer, and that time of year has finally rolled back around. We were worried about seeing Jones in part because Charlie recently had to get glasses, and we figured that she would have something to say about it, but we also hoped that there would be enough people to socialize with, so keeping our distance from her should not be too hard. It was easy to tell where she was all the time because she had one of the most beautiful designer dresses on that I'd frankly ever seen in person. It was a knockout backless halter style number split up the side, with some really tasteful detailing in the front. It was somewhere in between a comfortable dress for summer weather and the kind of thing that you would wear to a gala. It also looked completely out of place. When pretty much everyone else at the party was in shorts and t-shirts or casual button-downs. Jones was doing her usual social butterfly thing, making the rounds and getting as many eyes on her as possible. So Charlie and I decided to play it low-key and sit by the pool while we waited for the food. We were having a great time and enjoying the smell of a burger on the grill when I heard the grating sound of my sister laugh. "Look who sprouted another pair of eyes," she said, pointing at my son's glasses like there was a target painted on his face. You wear those things to the pool party?" Then she asked if he was even getting in the water and implied that he would not be able to swim. He swims fine. So it felt like she was just taking another pot shot that she could think of. This was one of the few times that she's done it right in front of me, and it was even more relentless than what Charlie's general description of it is in the past. And when my son, who had just been laughing and enjoying himself just moments ago, starts to cry, well, that's when I saw red. Then she just rubbed it, and harder, by saying that she would never see a crybaby in Grandpa's glasses before, and Rick and a few others had the audacity to laugh along with the joke, which only made Charlie cry harder. Without thinking, I just stood up and shoved her as hard as I could right into the pool. Splash! And all of a sudden, the mood at the party got dead quiet. For a second, anywho, which is all it took for Jones to resurface and start screaming at me that I humiliated her. I said it's pretty rich to complain about being embarrassed when she just tried doing the same thing to a mere child. Then I took Charlie by the hand, left the party, and took him out to her favorite family restaurant instead. Since then, I've gotten a lot of mixed responses from the family. Mom understands where I'm coming from, but she still thinks that I crossed the line by pushing Jones into the pool. Sarah says our sister-in-law is lucky, and that's all I did. Needless to say, Rick is furious at me. Other family members have chimed in, and a lot of them tend to side with either Rick or my mom. Like I said before, I don't really feel that bad. She came after my son, but when a bunch of people started telling me that I took it too far, it's hard not to wonder if they might be partly right. My mother also said that I was setting a very, very poor example for Charlie about how to deal with problems, and I respect that woman more than anyone in the world for raising me and my siblings alone. So I'm worried that maybe, she probably does have a point. I guess I just don't know how else I was supposed to handle it the way my sister was acting. I've tried talking to her before when she made Charlie cry the other day, and I just leapt straight to blind rage. If anybody can tell me what I should have done instead, I'd really appreciate it. Update number 1. Hey guys, I just wanted to update you about my sister's dress because things just blew up a lot more than I expected them to. It's been a week since then, and at first, I was going to simply take the advice I got from some of the commenters. As unfortunate as it is to say, the best option at this point really is to cut my brother and my sister out of my son's life. I care about family, but sometimes that means making tough decisions, and no decision takes greater priority than safeguarding my son's well-being. I wasn't going to close the door all the way, mind you, but I wasn't going to open it up again without seeing some real change. Short of that, I just could not put my son at risk of getting bullied again. I should also say that I took people's advice to let my son know that the way I handled things was not as great as it could have been. I explained to Charlie that sometimes we do things of anger and it feels justified when we're hurt. But at the end of the day, the best thing to do when you're being bullied is to simply walk away if you can. Revenge just risks escalating the situation, and the irony is that not long after having that talk with Charlie, I found out that the current situation has escalated, and I'm honestly not entirely sure how I'm supposed to handle it all now. So hopefully others on here will have some words of wisdom for me. It started when I saw that I had an unusual number of messages. I mentioned before that I'd gotten some criticism from family after pushing Jones into the pool, but they weren't too major. Most of my mom's family sticks to their own businesses. They'll voice an opinion if they have one, but most of us don't make a big habit of inserting ourselves into businesses that don't directly affect us. But all of a sudden, I was getting messages from people who had seemed mostly neutral, and now they were suddenly telling me that I should be ashamed of myself. Well, a few of these messages came in on Facebook. When I pulled up on my laptop to open Messenger and read them, I saw that I also had a notification saying Jones had tagged me in a recent post. I figured she was just complaining about me, but it turned out to be more than that. Her post was mostly just a few pictures of the dress that she had worn to the barbecue. She was wearing it in some photos taken earlier that day, seemingly before she'd even left for the party. The post was captioned, "Look at the dress my sister just ruined." Then there was also a few pictures of the dress itself from, well, after I had pushed her into the pool. And I have to admit, while I don't know how much about designer fashion, it looks like the chances of bringing that dress back to life are probably slim to none. The way it looks, since it dried, and definitely not how it's supposed to look. Well, that was bad enough to get people really mad at me, but it also did not end there. Again, I don't know much about designer clothing, but Charlie and I lived a pretty modest life for the most part. So I don't know how realistic this even is, but she's claiming that the dress is worth $5,000. She's also claiming it was a gift from a photographer who used to be in love with her before she met Rick, and that it has a sentimental value. Well, now she's demanding that I pay her back the full value of the dress. If it was a gift she got before she met Rick, then there's no way it should still be worth the original price. I just feel like I've got to have some kind of legal option here that won't cost me an arm and a leg. Does anybody happen to know? Is it even realistic for one dress to cost that much? And honestly, if it's worth that, then wasn't it kinda dumb to wear the dress to a barbecue in the first place? I'm not responding to her or Rick for now, even though they're blowing up my phone. I just need some guidance on what my next step should be. Thank you. Update number 2. A few weeks have gone by, and a lot of people have really supported me on this dress. So I want to start by saying thank you. I thought I would update now that I've actually spoken to a lawyer. He backed up a lot of what I assumed and a lot of what you told me. He said that even if I owed her something, she'd need to prove the worth of the dress, and there's a good chance that she's absolutely exaggerating. And the thing is, I can't really afford a lawyer right now who doesn't work on contingency. And by the time it was all said and done, I might wind up paying more than I would just to make a deal with my sister-in-law. Another piece of advice I got from a lot of you was to involve Charlie's dad in what's going on, so I contacted Adam and we've made a lunch agreement. I invited Sarah too, since I know that she's on my side, and it just felt like it would be nice to have her around right now, and the three of us talked it out, and I think I know what to do. Sarah does not want me to budge, but at the end of the day, Adam is Charlie's father, and his opinion holds more weight. He doesn't think Jones deserves the money, but he wants me to pay her off anyways just to get rid of her. He cares enough that he's willing to help cover the cost of the dress.
The only catch is that he had some conditions about whether he would pay. He doesn't like the idea of me allowing Rick and his wife to stay in Charlie's life at all. He understands why I don't want to close the door all the way on my own, but that's what I would have to do if Adam's going to help pay for the dress. You see, he's willing to revisit the issue if Rick ever gets divorced, but he was pretty heated when he heard that Rick was laughing at the jokes his wife made at her son's expenses. So, I hate to say it, but I think Adam's right. And to be honest, during things, his way makes it a lot easier to end them this quickly. At this point, I just want the whole situation to be over. It won't be easy, and I know it's going to absolutely devastate our mother, but I need to cut toxic people out of my life if I want this to be resolved. I called Rick to tell him that Adam and I have decided. My hope was that he'd change his mind and take my side on this if he knew what he was risking of losing a sister. He didn't do it. He's still standing by the woman who insulted his own nephew and made the boy cry, and if he thinks that's okay, then I told him that maybe walking away from him would not be so hard, even if that means avoiding family functions when I know that he's going to be there. I wish it had not come to this. I don't want to give this woman any money, and I don't want to cause a rift in my family, but I have to be a mother first, and if it was Rick and Jones who forced me to decide between being a mom and being a sister, I never asked for this. So I'm going to pay the money and then block them from everything. Maybe that sounds like a weaker decision to make. I just don't see any way around it at this point. I want to thank you all for your support. Sorry if I let down anyone who wanted to see my sister-in-law brought to some kind of justice. But it is what it is. We don't always get the enduring that we want, but I really do think this resolution will be for the best when everything is said and done. So I have just to go with my gut on this one. Update number 3. I was not expecting to make another update about this. It's been a few days and I was going to meet with Rick and his wife this weekend to give them money. I'm still meeting with them, but I'm currently on the fence about paying thanks to some new information that came my way just a couple of days ago. Let's just say the past couple of days have been way more full of surprises. Wow, than I could have possibly ever expected. The whole story's going to sound insane, so I'll just try to start from the very beginning. After I made my last update, I fully intended to just pay the money, block everybody, and be done with the whole thing. Then I got a new Facebook alert from a person I did not recognize, let's call her Jessica. She was messaging me to ask when I was going to send her the money I owed her. Since I've never seen a woman before in my life, at all, not even once have I seen her, I was obviously a bit confused. Before responding, I spent some time looking at her page and I learned a few interesting things. Jessica is a model, and a much more successful one than Jones. While my sister tends to mostly do local ads and shoots for small-time photographers, Jessica seems to live a huge life. She travels constantly, either for work or simply because she's making enough money to afford it. She's taken pictures at clubs, and I can't imagine getting into that for the life of me. And the biggest thing is her clothing. I would probably have to save for a month to afford even one of her dresses, which is why I got really interested when I saw that she was friends with my sister. Because, well, as soon as I saw that, I had a suspicion that responding to Jessica might be worth my time, and that's when I learned the true story about the dress I ruined, and it's a lot different from what Jones told me. According to Jessica, my sister-in-law never owned that dress at all. She borrowed it from Jessica a few months ago and simply never gave it back. When it got ruined at the barbecue, she told Jessica that she was going to pay her back, but that it might take some time because she's apparently having trouble booking gigs lately. Then she just never paid, and when Jessica looked at my sister's account and saw the post tagging me, she assumed the money was supposed to come from me. But that's not the most interesting part of the story. The interesting part of the story is the dress is nowhere near $5,000. In fact, Jessica tells me it's only worth about half of that. So I guess she does have dresses that I can't afford. But Jones decided to hide that from me in this case, and after talking to Jessica about it, I learned that my sister-in-law is a huge mooch. She borrows things and never gives them back, flirts with guys for free things, and lets her friends pay for her way whenever she can. When I told Jessica what was happening with the $5,000 payment, Jessica just guessed that my sister was probably planning on paying back what she owed and then keeping the rest for herself. As much as I'm sorry that I ruined somebody else's dream and dress because of what my sister did, I definitely don't feel sad anymore, or bad at all about not wanting to give her the money. Since Adam's money was going to be vital towards the payment, I asked Jessica if we could meet up with Adam so that he could hear the story from her as well. She's a pretty busy young woman, but she agreed. After talking things out, we came up with a plan. We're still going to show up on the day that we were supposed to pay, and the difference is that Jessica's going to tag along. We're also going to bring Charlie with us. Jones has owed my son an apology for quite some time now. Thanks to Jessica, it looks like we might have a plan that will basically force my sister-in-law into giving him one. There might be some other consequences awaiting her as well, but we'll get to that after my next update. The meeting is this weekend, so I'll let you guys know what happens when it's all said and done. Update number 4. Hey guys, well, I just got back from Rick's place a few hours ago, and I think it's safe to say that this will be my final update. I'm rather happy about how things turned out. First of all, I made sure that as many people were there for the meeting as possible. I simply told Rick that it was hard for me to have so many people from the family speaking ill of me. So I asked if he could round up the troops so that they, could watch me apologize to his wife and give her the payment. I thought that sounded outlandish, so I was actually a bit surprised that he fell for it. I wouldn't have been surprised if my sister fell for it, but I always thought Rick was at least a little bit smarter than that. When we showed up, most of the family had already been there. I just walked in with Adam and Charlie at first, and Adam gave her a chance to come clean about the price of the dress and said that he wanted to make sure that she was actually certain about how much it was worth before he paid. She got short with him and called him stupid, and that's when he told me to go ahead and go outside to invite in Jessica. Guys, my sister's face dropped immediately. Despite making all of her complaints about the dress on social media, apparently it never occurred to her how easy it would be for Jessica and I to come across each other. I asked Jones one more time if she wanted to come clean about anything, for reasons that entirely baffle me, and she still said no, even though I could tell that she was nervous about what was coming next. Guys, that's when Jessica revealed to the entire family that Jones had borrowed the dress and never gave it back. Where I'm from, we would call that stealing. Jessica then told everyone that she should be ashamed for letting a grown woman bully a child the way Jones was bullying Charlie. She also told Rick about how much Jones had been struggling to get gigs, which is apparently something he didn't even know. She further told him that she would not let him pay for the dress. She wanted my sister to pay for herself, since she was the one who took it. She basically gave my sister-in-law a very sharp ultimatum. She could drown in debt to pay back the cost of the dress, since they obviously wasn't making enough if she was lying to get the extra payments from me. As an alternative, Jessica said that she'd forgive the entire cost of the dress if Jones got on her knees and apologized to Charlie. Jones tried to argue at first, but Jessica stuck to her guns until my sister broke down crying. She dropped to her knees right then and there and apologized to Charlie in front of everyone. She tried to just say sorry, but Jessica treated her like a child and made her own up to everything that she was apologizing for. That would have been the end of it, but apparently Stacy's never liked my sister-in-law. Jones might be nice to Stacy, but Stacy still hates the way she treats Charlie. So when Jones was apologizing, Stacy took out the phone and recorded it. She sent the recording to me, and I sent it to Jessica. Within just a few short hours, tons of my sister's model friends had already liked and commented on it. Jones already had less of a reputation than she pretended to have. But now, what little reputation she did have left is basically ruined by her admitting to everybody that she knows that she bullies children and, well, exploits her friends for money. So that's pretty much that. I'm still cutting contact with Rick for as long as he stays with Jones, and right now it looks like he will. But a lot more of the family's on my side now, and it's unlikely that my brother and his wife are getting invited to any of the family barbecues for quite some time. Granted, Rick is starting to question what she was doing all those times that she said she had a modeling gig. So we'll see how long he stays with her anyways. As for Charlie, he seems to be feeling a lot better now. He's a lot more comfortable with his glasses now, and the only thing that still scares him is going to school. But since the administration has been no help, I'm just going to have him transferred. Now that he understands Jones is just another bully and that others will take his side, we can start working on his confidence and help him make some friends in a new environment. Because like I've said many times, his happiness is really the only thing that I care about. Comment number 1 from the entire update. It says, it feels like you kind of learned nothing from the pool incident. Didn't you make a big deal about telling your son that the way you reacted was wrong, and that sometimes the right thing is just to walk away? You could have just let her know that her friend told that the dress was borrowed and left it at that. Instead, you went out of your way to humiliate her in front of the whole family. And even if you weren't the one who recorded it, I'm getting the impression that you sent it to Jessica, specifically in the hopes that she would post it. You're so fed up with cancellation culture that you went out of your way to cancel someone who barely had a job in the first place. Do you really expect everyone to clap for you? People suck, so they probably will, but they really shouldn't.